Today's video is going on to a topic that I've seen a lot of people be talking about, which is a-cola's current season better than MKLeo's reign? Of course, there are many factors when it comes into this: the amount of first places, the percentage win of tournaments, how low their lows are. So let's talk about it, because I find it interesting that people are already talking about how dominant a-cola is. Of course, he is incredibly dominant. He has placed outside of top 8 once at a tournament ever since his offline premiere, but this season in particular, starting in June, has been absolutely ridiculous. Let's look at some results. So even though it's not quite this season, I'm just going to go back to the beginning of 2023 to look at a-cola's results. He got first at Umabura SP9, a 1,000-person tournament, without dropping a set. He got 7th at Genesis, losing to Mutace and Spargo. Then he got first at Kagaribi number 9, losing in Grand Final set 1 to Ashimo, but winning the tournament through winners for the rest of it. He got third at Maisuma top number 11, losing to Ken and Mia. At Battle of BC5, he got second to Spargo, making it to winners finals, and then beating Shutone in losers finals, but then losing to Spargo twice dominantly. At Seibugeki number 14, he got first, just super easily, beating, and again, this is all like with a ton of wins, I'm not even going into the wins, he's basically beating everyone in Japan, just for the record. He got first at Super Smash Con, very dominantly through winners, only going to one Game 5 set with his fellow countryman in terms of Neo, and then he got first at Sumabato number, what number is that? I don't know what Sumabato that is, but it's a Sumabato that, you know, first place very dominantly with 16-0 record, because I think they have like round robin pools or something. Then he got first at Delta number 5, losing Grand Set 1 to Hurt, but otherwise doing very well. So of course, a-cola's track record is amazing, right? He has, again, placed outside of top 8 once. He is basically always getting first. Like, the thing that is very interesting to me that people are comparing a-cola to MKLeo is the fact that it's kind of an assumption that a-cola is going to do well, right? And of course, that's always going to be the case with a lot of top players. Like, oh, you expect Light to be in top 8, you expect Spargo to be in top 8, but sometimes that doesn't happen, right? Light has got a couple of 9th places even pretty recently. a-cola has got one ever, and normally it's just like, oh yeah, of course he made top 8 winners, of course he made winners finals, of course he made grand finals and winners. Like, that's almost an assumption, assuming Spargo isn't there. Like, if I see a Japanese major happening, I'm like, okay, cool, I wonder who a-cola is playing in top 8 winners. It's probably like Mia or Zachary or something, but he's gonna be there basically. He's only lost outside of that once. He has not made a very long losers run, because the first time he ever really had to make a losers run was at Genesis, where he lost at the 17th place spot and then made it to 7th. So he won a couple times, but it wasn't a crazy long losers run. Like, the wins were impressive, of course, by a-cola at that Genesis. After losing to Mutace, he did beat Big D 3-0, Cola 3-0, and then T 3-1. So it's good wins. That's not to say like, oh, it was easy for him, but just, he's not a losers bracket player. He's a player that makes it to winners finals or grand finals through winners pretty easily, pretty consistently. But of course, we can talk about another player that has a lot of dominance in MKLeo. Of course, I'm not going to be comparing their both current seasons, because clearly a-cola is doing better, as he's the number 1 player, and Leo was ranked, I think, 4th or 5th in the SSB. I don't remember what Leo was ranked in the Lumi rank. But so we're going to go to his past, right? Even the the end of the quarantine, to talk about that type of dominance. And hey, before we go into the next part, can you subscribe, like the video, turn on notifications? I would appreciate it. So I've made videos on MKLeo before at this time period as to why he was such an impressive, crazy good player. Of course, he was ranked number 1 at this time, but basically, MKLeo didn't place outside of top 2 for a very long time. I didn't show it here because there's like an entrant thing that I'm doing, so there's no locals, but he got second at the first Ultimate Summit that happened. He got first at Riptide, beating Tweak, the person that had beat him at the summit twice. He got second at Konami Code, Glitch 8.5, to me, thank you very much. And then he got first at Low Tide City, first at Port Priority 6, first at Main Stage, third at Collision. This was like the big thing of like, oh my god, Leo didn't place top 2, right? Like, which was crazy. He got first at Genesis 8, no problem. This was incredibly dominant by Leos from what I remember. Then he got second at Pound 2022 to Gluto. He got first to King of Fields. He got first at Colossal. He got second at Double Down to Proto Banham. He got first at Smash Factor. 5th at SmashCon 2022 to Onan and Gluto. This, again, was crazy. This, I think, was the first time that Leo had placed outside of top 4 since he went to Japan back in 2019. So this was a crazy tournament. This was kind of when people went, oh my god, like the first time. People were like, is Leo washed? Is this gonna be happening? And then he immediately won Rise and Grind, like, super quickly. And then when 2023 started, there definitely was a slight downswing because he got 4th again into Sonics and Tweak, and that was the first time he had lost to Sonics. But then he won Genesis 9, and everyone was like, okay, Leo's back. And then after that, there's been the dip down with several ninths and stuff like that, so I'm going to stop the comparisons here. So that's the one era of MKLeo, the more recent era, but we can also talk about his initial dominance in the game, not at the very, very beginning of the game, but starting like after Joker had kind of come out and he had solidified himself as a Joker player and not a Lucina player, where he got first at Momocon, first at Smash and Splash. This, I think, was one of his most dominant tournaments ever because he just 3-0'd and 3-1'd everybody. Like, he made it look not close. There was one close set against Justy, or I think, what was it, Wishes was their tag. So that was the only really close set, and the game 5 I don't think was close. He got first at CEO 2019, second at Smash Factor, to Mars twice. He got first at Evo, making the incredibly long losers run because Kameme had beat him pretty early, and then of course he won the tournament, beating all these amazing players that I'm going to be showing in quick succession. He got first at Super Smash Con 2019 with, again, a ton of wins. He got second at Shine 2019. He got first at Uprising 2019. He got second at Main Stage, which, again, he's basically only getting first and second, right? He got first at Ultimate Fighting Arena when he lost to Gluto. I think this is when he was Marth, and then he went Joker and just destroyed him in Grands or something like that. He got first at Canada Cup, first at VCA, first at Congo Saga, second at Genesis, which, again, that was the crazy Mars run, right? And the last tournament before the pandemic, he got first at Frostbite, again making a crazy losers run, losing to Karama very early in the bracket, and just rattling off basically a ton of top 5, top 10 wins. So again, if we're asking who the dominant player is ever, it's MKLeo, right? There's the reason why MKLeo is the GOAT, even though a-cola is the #1 player. However, there's something interesting about it because, again, a-cola hasn't really made a loser's run, right? He doesn't have to, he just beats everyone, and this is not like a dig at him, but it's very interesting to see the level of dominance that MKLeo showed even through adversity, right? There are plenty of huge scale tournaments that Leo lost fairly early and then would just make a crazy losers run and end up winning anyway. Specifically, you think of the EVO 2019 and the Frostbite 2020. Those two tournaments, to me, were what solidified Leo as, oh, he's the best. It doesn't matter if he loses early. It doesn't matter if he gets upset. He's gonna win anyway. Like, there are a lot of players that when they lose in winners, you're just like, oh, they might just be out of the tournament, right? Because their mental's gonna be scared, like their mental's gonna be shattered, they're going to run into like some type of bad matchup, they're gonna run out of steam, whatever, right? Something's gonna happen like that. And the players that can kind of bounce back from that are the ones who are like, oh, they're actually just kind of the best. I remember I used to think Light, when he lost, would do like kind of poorly, and then SmashCon Fall Fest happened and he made a pretty long losers run there, and I was like, oh, never mind, he's really good. And of course he beat a ton of amazing players there. But there are definitely players that I'm just like, oh, if their mental is a little rough, it can be really hard for them to, have a long losers run. MKLeo has never been one of those, which is why, especially like at the beginning of 2023 or when stuff started to happen in terms of after Genesis, he would lose in winners and people would be like, oh, it's okay, he's gonna win, and then he would get like 7th or 9th and people would go, oh, that's surprising, because again, it's still surprising that MKLeo is not consistently in top 8 all of the time, beating all these players. That's a very new phenomenon. If you have been watching the past 6 months and you're like, yeah, well, Leo's just not gonna win the tournament, that's a new phenomenon that you can think that with any sort of validity. Of course, it is crazy to me that a-cola just doesn't go into losers bracket. That is a crazy stat that he basically makes it to winners finals at every tournament he's been to, but the one he didn't, he got 7th, right? Recently at Genesis. Granted, that's because he ran into Spargo, the only person basically that he's just, assumed to lose versus. So again, I think if a-cola finishes out this segment of the year, so, October, November, December, just getting first at every tournament and not losing, yeah, maybe there's an argument, but he hasn't been to enough majors this year to really say, oh yeah, this is the same level of dominance as MKLeo. Granted, I am going to give some credit to, of course, the Japanese scene. They are the strongest scene in the world right now, so being able to be that consistent is insane. There are so many amazing top-level players in Japan that are randomly getting 13th and 25th and 17th, right? I mean, you see someone like T, who is, of course, like a perennial top player in Japan, going to Maisuma top number 13, I'm pretty sure a tournament that a-cola was at, he randomly got 13th, losing to Kamame and Toriguri, the Banjo. So, like, there are definitely tournaments that are randomly very difficult to do well in, right? He got 17th at Kageribi number 10, which is the tournament that a-cola got second, and Spargo made that crazy losers run, right? But again, top players in Japan of randomly have a hard time because Japan is an incredibly difficult scene to be consistent in. It's basically been impossible forever in this game. That's the reason why Zachary was so impressive, because he would consistently win in Japan, and now a cola is consistently winning in Japan, and especially now Japan is kind of the center of the Smash Ultimate world, which I'm going to be making another video about because I've seen a lot of Americans talk about, oh, it's so hard to do well when like Japan is the #1 scene, we have to travel there. And that's just a hilarious statement given as someone that has just been around forever. So I'm going to be making a video about that, but yeah, I find it kind of insane to see that people are comparing a-cola currently to what MKLeo was then, because MKLeo just showed a level of dominance that is unheard of. And again, can a-cola reach that status? Absolutely. It doesn't seem like he really has a view of slowing down, right? I don't think anyone ever argued that MKLeo was the #1 player when he was dominant, because he simply clearly was. There was no argument, whereas like Spargo's obviously amazing, and Spargo versus a-cola is a conversation, even though I think a-cola is the #1 player, especially this season, due to Spargo's 49th place, which is very unfortunate for him. But again, there was no real debate, right? People were like, oh, MKLeo loses sometimes to these top players. But then he would have like a 10-3 record versus them or something like that over the course of a season. Like, they would just beat him sometimes. They would give him trouble sometimes, but he would still win. So yeah, MKLeo is still the GOAT, even if he's not the #1 player right now. But a-cola, again, if he keeps up the consistency that he has been the past year and a half, I see no reason why he wouldn't be in the conversation. Otherwise, or besides like Steve hate, which I hate Steve too, but you know, give him his props. So yeah, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Let me know if you want me to talk about other random topics. I would appreciate it, because I like, you know, talking about stuff that y'all want to listen to. It's fun. And again, I like kind of these talking videos as well, just, you know, spitballing random stuff that I'm thinking about. Don't forget to subscribe, turn on notifications, and I'll see you all next time.